Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, if you hear a slight hum in the background, that's my dehumidifier. Right now it's actually not bad outside, but it's really early in the morning. Right now it's about 65 degrees outside, and you see the humidity in here? It's like 62. To me, I find that a little bit high, so I get my dehumidifier going to get the air in here a little bit less humid, let's say. So that's the sound you hear in the background. If you do hear one, I'll try to take it out. But today I want to talk about the main topic, which is this huge heat wave that's going on in the northern part of the hemisphere, and it is affecting the United States of America and a lot of people in the United States of America, and how one of our largest power grids has declared emergency alert amid scorching heat. So I want to talk about that for a little bit, but I also want to talk about a couple of other things that are pretty important that don't really have anything to do with this subject matter. And then I'm going to go ahead and just hit on real quick a whole bunch of articles that I've missed out on this week. I've been very busy this week taking care of things, and believe it or not, I can already feel winter getting closer, even though we're in the middle of this heat during this summer season. So let's go ahead and start with the largest U.S. power grid declares emergency alert amid scorching heat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the middle of summer. Summer actually just started not too long ago, about a month ago or so, officially, and that's what's going to happen in the summer. It's all a cycle, ladies and gentlemen, so don't be afraid of this. Just prepare for it, just doing the basic things that you would normally do otherwise. A heat wave continues to blast the Midwest, Northeast, and South through the end of the work week, forcing the largest U.S. grid operator to declare a level 1 emergency for Thursday as tens of millions of people crank up air conditioners to escape scorching temperatures as summer in the northern hemisphere peaks. And they say that they are concerned about maintaining adequate power reserves on Thursday as power demand is set to soar because of air conditioners. I understand that 100%. What I'm using is like an air conditioner anyways. It has a compressor. It uses about as much energy as an air conditioner, so it's pretty much the same thing. It expects demand to reach about 153,000 megawatts as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and has about 186 megawatts of generating capacity. There's more people every year that pass away because of cold conditions than do because of hot conditions. So this is not something to be worried about. This is not something to be afraid about. Just do what you did last year when it was hot at this time, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a great learning opportunity for you, especially if you're of the preparedness mindset. What would happen if you didn't have power for air conditioning? What would you do during this time of year? Do a little bit of research on maybe how you can make your own swamp cooler. In the olden times when they didn't have air conditioners, they used to take like bed sheets, right? And they used to soak them in water, and they used to hang them in between doorways. That way the air that went through the bed sheets would trap the heat in them, and then cool air will come out the other side. It was a way that they used to cool the insides of their home during really hot times. So there's little things like that that you can look into that would maybe help to keep your home cool, in these times where it's really hot during this time of the year. Now, I wanted to go over this real quick for those of you that are 100% against the fuels that we use in order to power our lives. So those of you that are maybe going through a really big heat wave right now and are having to turn on your air conditioners like 24/7 because it's that hot and or humid. But I just want you to take a look at this for those of you that think that we don't need these solid fuels, that we don't need gas, that we don't need coal. Oil is used very, very little in this case, but coal and gas is used abundantly in making sure that we can preserve the way that we live today and keeping people electrified. So think about this whenever you're talking about shutting down solid fuels. I'm sure that you've heard about the rice panic buying that's happened in the United States about the non-basmati rice because India went ahead and stopped exporting that. The price of rice is almost doubling this year, I think, and I predicted that it was going to double this year, and not necessarily just this one type of non-basmati rice, that the price has doubled and tripled really in some cases, but rice all across the board. Go to your local store and see how much just long grain rice has gone up in the last year or so. It's almost double, ladies and gentlemen. We remember that about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, a 50-pound bag of long grain rice, which is usually your cheapest rice, was selling for less than 20 bucks for a 50-pound bag. Now, if I go to Costco, it's about, I think, like $34, close to $34. So it's on its way to doubling. Same thing with Calrose rice, what used to be my very favorite rice, and still is, although I can't eat it, right? Even Calrose rice has already almost doubled in price. Year and a half ago, I was buying that Calrose rice for about, what, 25, 27 bucks for a 50-pound bag, and now it's upward of like $47 or $48. Everything is going up in price, and rice is not going to be saved, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it has grown a lot throughout the world, look at what one country can do to the world, at least in this one type of rice. IMF hints that countries will soon be able to repay debt using the Chinese yuan currency. Something that we've seen coming for a very long time. Now, I don't want you to think that the Federal Reserve note, i.e. the US dollar, will be losing its reserve currency around the world. I've talked about this before. What I think will happen once the BRICS nations get together and they commit to a single currency to be used among them and with any other countries that want to do trade with them, I think what will happen is that the US dollar around the world will be used less. Therefore, having more US dollars here at home, because if they're not being used around the world, they're going to be sent back to where they came from, which is here in the United States, causing inflation to go even higher. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think that the dollar anytime soon is going to lose world reserve currency. It's just that the value of the dollar is going to continuously go down until one day it's no more. And I would rather that happen than for it to fall off a cliff from one day to another, because that gives us zero time to prepare. You have to do your own research. You have to convince yourself that your thoughts are your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, and not someone else's. Cancellations start for John Clauser after Nobel Prize laureate, he's a Nobel Prize winner, ladies and gentlemen, speaks out about corruption of climate science. I'm very adamant that the climate as we see it today, it's just part of a cycle that has happened time and time again. Take a look at the drought that was happening in the Midwest to the west, right? It happened for about 7-8 years. It lasted long time. Well, if you take a look at the map of that drought just a year ago, if you take a look at that map, I'll try to find it and put it up right here next to me. If you take a look at that map, it was terrible. But look at it today, ladies and gentlemen. It was a 1,200-year drought. It was a drought that was as bad as the worst 1,200 years ago. But now, look the way it looks now. It looks good. It's a cycle. It is a cycle, and that's what we're going through. And what we're going through today, as far as the human cycle, is just that, another cycle. We have entered and are now in what I believe is the middle of the fourth turning of the human cycle, ladies and gentlemen. And during that turning of the human cycle, we have what's called crises. Why? Because us humans, we don't like to remember the lessons that we've learned for several generations down the road. We don't like to pass that on. Therefore, we are going to go ahead and commit the same mistakes that we've committed in the past. And that's what we're going through right now. But there are powers that be that want to use these things that people have not looked into for themselves, that have not learned, right? That have not been taught to them in school. They like to use these things to scare you into doing what they want you to do. Well, they want you to eat bugs. Why? Because of climate change, when the climate changes every day. But I digress. And hopefully this one won't get me in trouble. Serious doubt about the vitamin juice after forced release of 15,000 pages of clinical trial data. Believe it or not, they did do clinical trials on the vitamin juice before they administered it to the public en masse, at least to those that would take it. Here they start off by saying that a conservative public interest advocacy group, the DTR, they obtained 15,000 pages of this pharmaceutical company's vitamin juice clinical trial data, claiming that the data shows an utter lack of thoroughness of the trials and caused the vitamin juice's safety into serious doubt. As a result of successful FOIA litigation against the US FDA, and I don't understand why they would have to sue the FDA when the FDA is supposed to work for the American people. They're supposed to be transparent, no, ladies and gentlemen, especially with something as important as our food and the drugs that are sold here in the United States. I don't understand why the people that are funding these organizations have to sue said organizations in order to get information from them. It's idiotic, in my opinion. The group recently announced that it had obtained and is releasing nearly 15,000 pages of documents relating to testing and adverse events associated with that vitamin juice named by that pharmaceutical company. I will be leaving the link to all of these articles so that you can go take a look at them if you like, ladies and gentlemen. The studies reveal that the causes of deaths, serious adverse events, and instances of neurological disorders potentially associated with that vitamin juice from that company. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think that talking topics such as this are going to elevate more and more as time goes on. And people will understand one day that we have been hoodwinked. And a lot of people are going to be very angry, ladies and gentlemen. MSNBC leftist calls for post 9/11 style crackdown to prevent Americans becoming too patriotic. And what he's talking about here, I do believe, is like censoring people. Like getting people in trouble for what they say. When, ladies and gentlemen, ideas are not ideas if they cannot be shared with other people. They will just die and fade away. So I'm very thankful that we still have those amendments that are protecting our rights that we were born with to those things that protect humanity, i.e. the freedom to speak, i.e. the freedom to be able to defend yourself. And I know that I'm just covering them very, very lightly here, right? But also the freedom to say, hey, listen, only because you work for the government doesn't mean that you got to come on in here and take over my house. The Third Amendment. And the fourth, the freedom to not be stopped and frisked and have your personal things taken from you without due process, etc., etc. So there is still hope because of that document that our forefathers generated, which is the Constitution, that does not give us any right. The Constitution or the Bill of Rights gives us zero rights. What it does is it protects those rights that were given to us by our Creator at birth. That's what it does. So, yes, there are still things to be hopeful for. But if we don't look at those things that can damage that way of life that we've become accustomed to because of the freedoms that we have been given by our Creator, and therefore should be protected by the government that we appointed to protect those freedoms. If we don't keep on that, then eventually those freedoms will be lost. So I'm very thankful that we still live in a country here in the United States where we're able to do this. And this is not the only country. You know, it's not like this is the last stand. This will be the last stand, the United States, because of that document, in my opinion. And because there are people who love this country and they are able to use that document, you know, in order to fight for this country. But like I said, there's other countries. But I want you to know that the message, although it sounds negative a lot of times, it's because it's realistic. It's the world that we live in. And that's what we have to work with. So I don't want you to be afraid of what may come, ladies and gentlemen, because what will come will come. You know, Murphy's Law is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, whenever something bad happens, someone says, well, it's Murphy's Law. Well, Murphy's Law is pretty much just saying that if something can happen, right, that if it can happen, that it more likely will happen, be it good or bad. So we can look forward to Murphy's Law also, that one day we will win this fight against those that want to take away our freedoms, against those that want to take away our water heaters, that want to take our gas stoves away, that want us to eat crickets, that want us to stop driving from point A to point B, that want to restrict us to a small piece of land that we never can leave. One day we will win against those people. And I believe that we are winning. We are winning this fight. It doesn't look like we are, but we are. But in the end, we will be able to say, victory, victory, we are free. And those same people that are now proponents of communism, socialism, of totalitarian rule, those same people will be happy that there was another group of people that picked up the fight and that fought for their rights just as much. I heard a conversation, I think it was yesterday. I was watching a podcast, and I forgot exactly how it went. But this gentleman was talking with a person who was a Marxist. And he told them, you know what the difference between living in a communist country and a capitalist? He says the difference is that in a capitalist country, if you want to be a communist, you can. In a capitalist country, if you want to start a little town that's all communist, you can do that. But it will be voluntary communism. But in a communist country, you're not allowed to be a capitalist. You're not allowed to start your own little capitalistic town if you want. So think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want choice or not? If you do want communism, go. Great. Practice it. Give away everything you have and just live on the bare minimums. Go start a little town where everyone in that little town is communist. And live the way that you want to live over there, right? Where everyone shares everything and everyone does communal work every day. Go do that. That's your freedom to do that. But don't try to force everyone else into doing something that you want to do. Just like right now, here, you're not forced to do anything you don't want to do. You don't have to live a capitalistic world. You don't have to buy that Apple iPhone. You don't have to buy a cell phone at all. You don't have to buy shoes. You can make your own shoes if you want to. Anyways, I'm ranting on because it's been a couple of days since I've put up a video and I really had a lot to talk about. But I still have a lot of work to do, so I have to let you go with that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. For those of you that are still here, thank you very much. This is probably what helps the channel the most, is those of you that actually stay here till the end. And if my voice annoys you, go ahead and let the video run all the way through the end anyways. Number one, you might get used to my voice and it won't annoy you anymore. Or just go ahead and turn down the volume and let my video run till the end anyways, because it really helps YouTube and push out our videos to other people that maybe otherwise would not have seen them. All right. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you. I'm Alaska Prepper. God bless America, and I am out.